All right. How you doing? Welcome back to Black Bear News, where everything is connected. Excuse me. Um, it's hilarious because my own live stream doesn't show up on my own channel sometimes. I know I'm doing a live stream and I can't seem to find it. That's just so weird. It's just so weird. But yeah. Anyways, hello, welcome. Early chatters are in. Rock fins are in. Urban Hermit, hello. Welcome. Please watch me on Rockfin, ROKFIN.com. Going South says, I don't see any microplastic. Must not be true. I haven't seen any. Oh, you guys are in a funny mood today, comedic mood. I'm with it. Anyways, let's get into it. Where are we? Well, yeah, let's just go ahead and get right into some microplastic news. Microplastic news. Sounds like a good band name. Microplastic something. Sounds like a good band name, you know? Anyways, Mark Cranfield tweets out, microplastic particles now discoverable in human organs. And the human race just keeps on getting better, you know what I'm saying? Let's go to this from The Guardian, August 17th, 2020. And, you know, I thought that I recognized this picture. I think we already covered this, but we'll just, you know, we'll have a little refresher, shall we? Microplastic and nanoplastic particles are now discoverable in human organs thanks to a new technique. Microplastics have polluted the entire planet, from Arctic snow and alpine soils to the deepest oceans. People are also known to consume them via food and water and to breathe them in. But the potential impact on human health is not yet known, and that's the fun part. That's the part where it gets really interesting. Why? And yet we continue to crank these plastic containers, things made of plastic, things built with plastic. What are things made of plastic for 200, Alex? We continue to pump these things into the environment, knowing that they are infiltrating the smallest, tiniest nooks and crannies of our ecosystems and ourselves. And yet we continue to do it. We don't know what the effects are. What's the potential impact on human health? We don't know, but we've been cranking these things out for decades now. And we don't really know the impact on human health. But that's how humans roll. That's how we roll. We just push it out there. It's new technology. It's something new. Let's just do it. Let's put it out in the environment. What's the effect? The long-term effect? The general multi-generational effect? We don't know. But, you know, there's profit to be made, so let's continue. Researchers expect to find the particles in human organs and have identified chemical traces of plastic in tissue. Chemical traces of plastic in tissue. But isolating and characterizing such minuscule fragments is difficult, and contamination from plastics in the air is also a challenge. It would be naive to believe there is plastic everywhere, but just not in us, said Rolf Halden at Arizona State University. We're now providing a research platform that will allow us and others to look for what is invisible. These particles too small for the naked eye to see. The risk to health really resides in the small particles. They found bisphenol A, or bisphenol A, BPA, a chemical used to make plastics, in all 47 samples. Previous studies have shown people eat and breathe in at least 50,000 particles of microplastic a year. Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And that microplastic pollution is raining down on city dwellers, with London, UK having the highest level of 4 cities analyzed last year. The particles can harbor toxic chemicals and harmful microbes and are known to harm some marine creatures. Other work has shown different kinds of nanoparticles from air pollution are present in human hearts and brains and have been linked to brain cancer. Well, isn't that nice? Yep, that's really happening. But we already knew that, right? We're covering all of this here on the Black Bear News. Here's a frightening tweet from Chris Van Steenbergen. We've never seen something like this before. This is just a moment. This is from yesterday. Surmillik Fjord, still open. Helheim Glacier. Kangerlussuaq Fjord, still open. Kangerlussuaq Glacier. Ilulissat Fjord, still open. Disco Bay, no sea ice. Jakobshavn Glacier, no cooling predicted. And we'll look at some of these pictures. Satellite pictures. An intrepid viewer and researcher going south replies, both of your first 2 fjords look ice covered. And Chris replies, yes, thin sea ice in front of the fjords, but the fjords contain only moving glacier ice. Anyways, still concerning. Or very concerning, considering it's December 22nd. We'll call it little to very little to no sea ice in these fjords that should be jam-packed, full of ice, thick ice, etc. That's how it's going at the moment. So this is took me a couple days to get to this story, and I apologize. This is the story about a British Columbia rock slide that carved a new canyon. This is from December 17th, 2020. Researchers seek cause of massive BC rock slide that carved a new canyon. Glacial retreat suspected to be part of the cause. Wow. Well, that's a really cool picture. Cool and weird. Because it looks like a movie set or something. It doesn't look real. The way, it looks like a little model of a forest that somebody put together. A research team is flying up to the source of a massive landslide that ripped through a valley on British Columbia's central coast in late November. In an attempt to pinpoint a cause, they suspect glacial retreat played a role and say the devastating slide is a warning of how treacherous it can be to live below the unstable rock slopes that melting glaciers can leave behind. Experts looking at satellite images believe a high elevation rock avalanche hit a glacial lake and caused a violent 100-meter high displacement wave or splash, releasing a violent outburst flood. Wow. I'm going to read that again. A high elevation rock avalanche hit a glacial lake and caused a violent 100-meter high displacement wave or splash. That is fairly unbelievable. Unbelievably huge. The flood dislodged boulders and trees and sent a torrent of icy sludge into the sea below. It's pretty surprising. This is a large one, said Brian Menounis, professor of earth sciences and a Canada research chair on glacier change at the University of Northern British Columbia. The glacier has partially set this up, he said. Let's watch some of this. That is some serious devastation. He said that retreating or melting glaciers often leave steep, unstable slopes behind, but Menounos said the initial slide trigger, be it heavy rain, earthquake, or another impetus, remains unclear. It showcases that our mountains are connected from the tops of the ice fields all the way down to the ocean. They are all connected. Everything is connected. Wow. The debris flow obliterated millions of dollars worth of logging infrastructure. About 10 kilometers below the initial event, the landslide, which nobody even noticed at first, created a seismic wave that was picked up on measuring devices all over North America, according to experts. Over the loss of salmon habitat and forest. Well, it took out a bunch of logging operations and also some road construction, so go landslide. Hooray for nature swatting out some of this planet-destroying infrastructure. Hamalco, let's see. But the landslide also destroyed lots of forest and lots of animals as well, so that is not good. Hamalco First Nation Chief Darren Blaney said species including chum, coho, and pink salmon, which were already dwindling, will be hurt by this event. Andrew Horahan is Vice President of Western Operations for Inter4 Logging Operations. He said field geologists up to the source of the slide to survey the damage last week. It appears that we lost a significant amount of road construction as well as a bridge and unfortunately a fair bit of developed timber. That's not good. So the force of the event was equivalent to a magnitude 4.9 earthquake. Yeah. What's up, guys? Just checking in. Natural Progressive, thank you for the super chat. Natural Progressive says, thank you. You are one of the best. See you in less than 2 hours. So sad at the state of the planet, getting hard to process. You're stronger than I am. Well, I don't know. I don't know about that. This is actually the way that I do process it, is by doing these videos. Otherwise, I think I might be in a bad state if I had no one to talk about this with. And you all are those who I discuss this issue with. But yes, I will be joining a panel with Natural Progressive and Sandy and Derek Jensen at 1 p.m. Pacific time. So guys, tune into that. But it is a lot to take in, for sure. Thanks, Poppy. Thank you. Just checking in quickly with Rockfin. We have Jay Thadcast. Says slow motion apocalypse. Poppy Davis, Urban Hermit, Kevin Shanholzer. We should wrap the glaciers in plastic to preserve them. Yes. Yes. Snake 1974, what's up? We got the Rockfinners on the Rockfin. It's free to join, to sign up for an account, and you can watch free content on Rockfin. And I usually do my, well, for the last little bit, my live streams have been free, so you can watch my live streams for free on Rockfin. All right. Where are we? I was reading something about bees. Bees be declining, and we all know this. But what I didn't know is, I drink almond milk because I am vegetarian and not totally vegan, but there's a lot of products I don't use, like regular milk. So if you're a drinker of almond milk, this would be good to know. The title of this from the Guardian says, like sending bees to war, the deadly truth behind your almond milk obsession. We're not going to read too far into this. By the way, guys, just really quickly, I wanted to tell you, I might have to actually take a quick break in the middle of this video. So just giving you a warning. I might have a little bit, like a minute break that I have to take, and yeah, you'll know when it happens. Bees are essential to the functioning of Americans' titanic almond industry, and billions are dying in the process. Billions are dying in the process. So Dennis Arp was feeling optimistic last summer, which is unusual for a beekeeper these days. Thanks to a record wet spring, his hundreds of hives scattered across the central Arizona desert produced a bounty of honey. Arp would have plenty to sell in stores, but more importantly, the bumper harvest would strengthen his bees for their biggest task of the coming year. Like most commercial beekeepers in the U.S., at least half of Arp's revenue now comes from pollinating almonds. Uh, Selling honey is far less lucrative than renting out his colonies to mega farms in California's fertile Central Valley, home to 80% of the world's almond supply. But as winter approaches, with ARP just months away from taking his hives to California, his bees started getting sick. By October, 150 of ARP's hives had been wiped out by mites. 12% of his inventory is just a few. 12% of his inventory in just a few months. My yard is currently filled with stacks of empty bee boxes that used to contain healthy hives, he says. This shouldn't be happening to someone like ARP, a beekeeper with decades of experience, but his story is not unique. Commercial beekeepers who send their hives to the almond farms are seeing their bees die in record numbers, and nothing they do seems to stop the decline. A recent survey of commercial beekeepers showed that 50 billion bees, more than 7 times the world's human population, were wiped out in a few months during winter 2018-2019. That was just last year. This is more than 1/3 of commercial, or 2 years ago. This is more than 1/3 of commercial U.S. bee colonies, the highest number since the annual survey started in the mid 2000s. So 1/3, more than 1/3 of commercial U.S. bee colonies. Beekeepers attributed this high mortality rate to pesticide exposure, diseases from parasites, and habitat loss. However, environmentalists and organic beekeepers maintain that the real culprit is something more systemic. America's reliance on industrial agriculture methods, especially those used by the almond industry, which demands a large-scale mechanization of one of nature's most delicate natural processes. Industrial ag, once again, heading up environmental destruction. Environmental advocates argue that the huge commercially driven proliferation of European honeybees used on almond farms is itself undermining the ecosystem for all bees. We read just recently about the fact that wild bees are in really bad shape. Wild bees are declining, and the ones that are kept alive are the European ones that they use for agriculture. Honeybees outcompete diverse native bee species for forage and threaten the endangered species that are already struggling to survive climate change. Environmentalists argue a better solution is to transform the way large-scale agriculture is carried out in the U.S. Those are environmentalists, but might be onto something, right? Like all bees, honeybees thrive in a biodiverse landscape, but California's almond industry places them in a monoculture where growers expect the bees to be predictably productive year after year. And not only are they not productive, they end up perishing. Commercial honeybees are considered livestock by the U.S. Department of Agriculture because the creature's vital role in food production. But no other class of livestock comes close to the scorched earth circumstances that commercial honeybees face. More bees die every year in the U.S. than all other fish and animals raised for slaughter combined. The high mortality rate creates a sad business model for beekeepers, said Nate Donnelly, a senior scientist for the Center of Biological Diversity. It's like sending the bees to war. Many don't come back. This actually had to really make me rethink my whole almond milk thing. In fact, it's probably going to end today. I mean, it's hard to escape the onslaught of industrial agriculture. Like almost everything that you eat or drink contains some kind of environmental damage in it or some kind of emissions in it, et cetera, et cetera. But, you know, you got to continue to refine your choices if you can. talking about the almond industry, we don't see a cap on growth at this point, especially with the incredible versatility of almonds in foods, says Richard Waycott. Kuro Hike says the water, the air, and the soil. Yes. A gallon of water per almond. I know. Yes. Kuro Hike says you can replace almond milk with oat milk, and you can make it yourself pretty easily. Thank you, Kuro. I appreciate that. Good tip from Kuro Hikes. If you're looking for a milk alternative, oat milk. Again, you know, you have to source where you're getting the oats from, et cetera, et cetera. Probably some kind of environmental destruction in the oats, I'm sure, but maybe less destructive. Hunter Z says Feinstein made her money in almonds. I didn't know that. Good to know. Anyways, yeah, this is pretty devastating. I just wanted to... I'm not going to get farther into this, but... you know, one of the victims of the almond industry are the bees themselves. Frightening. And before we get into the news of the world, one more thing from Go Green. We were just talking about this. I was talking about this with Jim Massa yesterday. We were discussing phytoplankton, global warming blamed for 40% decline in oceans phytoplankton. My guess is that this is probably an older article. Yes, very old. So 2010, I guessed correctly. But you know, taken into account, this is a 10-year-old article. And again, I'm not going to go deep into this, but because we already know the situation. Nature Stunner. This is from 10 years ago. Think progress. Global warming blamed for 40% decline in the ocean's phytoplankton. So imagine what that is today. That's pretty much the entire point I want to make with this, bringing this up. Is imagine what this is today. We've had 10 years of ongoing climate destruction, environmental destruction. 10 years of acceleration of climate change and emissions, accelerating emissions, accelerating ecocide. And so where are we now? I wonder. I'm sure that I could probably Google that up, but I'm not gonna. No need. I think we already understand the situation, but. Just quickly, scientists may have found the most devastating impact of human-caused global warming, a 40% decline in phytoplankton since 1950, linked to the rise in ocean sea surface temperatures. If confirmed, it may represent the single most important finding of the year in climate science. Yeah. So, hold on one second. All right, dog. My dog is trying to get frisky. Hey. We've known for a while that we are poisoning the oceans and that human emissions of carbon dioxide left unchecked, so 10 years later, pretty much left unchecked, would likely have devastating consequences, and we've known those impacts might last a long, long time. Okay. All right, puppers. Okay, doggy. Yeah. A long, long time. Somebody was talking about milking goats. I've milked goats before. Actually, goat milk is... You can drink goat milk straight from the udder. It's pretty dang good. What's up, Rockfin people? Just saying hello. Kevin Chanholzer says, so phytoplankton milk is out of the question. All of it, you know, your almond milk, your bees, your phytoplankton, all of it has microplastics. So, you know, do with that what you will. Milked goats and made cheese. Oh, yeah. People are saying hello to Thunder. Thunder the dog. Now Thunder is plotting her attack on the gardeners. Just kidding. She wouldn't attack. She's a sweetheart. She wouldn't attack anybody. All right, let's move on. Let's move on. Where are we? Hello. I've lost my place. All right. So huge news that I really wasn't able to cover yesterday. The previous 24-hour news cycle just went completely berserk. As far as what's going on with stimulus and the stimulus situation in the U.S., but quickly, very quickly, the new strain of coronavirus has also emerged in South Africa. It's driving South Africa's resurgence, and it seems to be spreading very quickly. So it's highly infectious. And on top of all that good news, Dr. Fauci says that the new COVID strain has probably reached the U.S. Right? Because it's been spreading for a week or more in the U.K. and they, you know, depending on how quickly they started developing tests for this, they don't know how long this new strain was spreading, and it has also, you know, been found coming from other places. So Fauci is saying it's highly likely it's in the U.S. And, you know, there's been obviously a rise in cases in the U.S. over the last at least month. So is it possibly fueling some of the hot spots in the U.S.? Maybe. Moving on, huge news, like banging out of Washington. Okay, guys, I'm going to take a break and I'll come back for this. Hold on one moment, okay? All right, we're back. That wasn't so bad, was it? Big news out of Washington. Trump calls COVID relief bill unsuitable and demands Congress add higher stimulus payments. So we heard before that he was trying to push for $2,000 stimulus payments, and that he was thwarted by Pelosi and McConnell. That, they were like, no, we're cool, we got this. So they passed the stimulus, and he said, no, this isn't good enough. And he's right, okay? So he's right, he's correct. It's not good enough, because as soon as they passed it, obviously people were very, very upset with this bill, the stimulus bill. Lots and lots of people from all walks of life were saying this is not acceptable. And in a surprise plot twist, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, one of Trump's arch enemies, agreed with his call for $2,000 payments. She was like, okay, yeah, you're right. She couldn't actually... she was going to be... I think she understood the writing on the wall, that if she opposed this, that it was going to look really, really bad for her. And listen, I'm gonna put this out there. One of the reasons I think why Nancy Pelosi so quickly agreed to this. So here's what's going to happen. Trump said he wasn't threatening to veto the bill, but they are agreeing to meet this week in an emergency session and add these payments. Rashida Tlaib and AOC, I think, drafted a quick bill, and they said, we're going to put this in here and we're going to draft these payments. I'm going to tell you right now, one of the reasons why Nancy Pelosi quickly agreed to this is because they see the writing on the wall, and because of this force the vote pressure campaign that's going on. If you don't think that they haven't seen this, if you don't think that they are not paying attention to this and that they are not aware of this, you're surely mistaken. They know what's going on. They hear what's going on. They understand that people are pissed. So I'm going to credit the force the vote drive with probably prompting Nancy Pelosi to get her mind right and agree to this emergency legislation to get $2,000 into the stimulus. And I'm going to quickly just say, very, very quickly say, the stimulus checks have not been, have been pretty much non-existent. Everybody got one check for $1,200, and that's all we've gotten for the last 9 months. That's not good. But I think to talk about stimulus checks as the only form of help that the government has given people is slightly disingenuous, because we have been, a lot of people did get unemployment benefits that were, helped them get through stuff. A lot of people got PPP loans. Again, those are problematic. Not everybody got unemployment. You have to apply for unemployment. It can take a long, people that applied for unemployment took them, I applied for unemployment. It took me 5 months to get an unemployment check. So 5 months without any money, again, having to go through jump through the hoops of applying for unemployment or applying for a PPP loan, not cool. They could have just immediately helped the American people by giving people a UBI or a larger amount of money. But to say that, the only help that people have gotten is a $1,200 stimulus check, slightly disingenuous. But because some people have gotten unemployment, but not everyone. Not everyone. A lot of people are out of jobs, out of work with no unemployment, no PPP, no stimulus check. A lot of people fell through all of the cracks and don't have anything. So that's something to be aware of. And a lot of people haven't been able to pay rent, are on the brink of eviction. Donald Trump, in a stunning nighttime tweet, called the $900 COVID relief bill passed by Congress an unsuitable disgrace and urged lawmakers to make changes to the measure, including bigger direct payments to individuals and families. We're going to get this story has more twist to it. We're going to keep going because there's a lot of interesting stuff around the stimulus bill that you should know. he, Trump also brought up all of the foreign aid that was given out in this, under this omnibus bill. And he called it out. He called out all this military industrial complex, all this foreign aid, things, money that going to the Pentagon, et cetera, et cetera. He's like, this is ridiculous. We can't give people money, and we're giving away billions, millions, if not billions of dollars to other countries. What is going on? And that's correct. That's correct. That is a correct thing to do. Let's move on. Mostly everybody knows what's in the $900 relief bill passed by Congress. It was combined with a $1.4 trillion bill to fund regular government operations for the rest of the fiscal year. However, it included some things that people had huge problems with. Let's go to this very quickly. Lots of funding for things, which is fine. But it's this that people had problems with, right? The domestic funding things, that's fine. But you have countries getting billions of dollars in aid, American people $600. So people had a lot of problems with that. They did re-up the unemployment and are giving people 300 plus, I think, for unemployment. This also included in the bill that people thought was crazy. It would make illegal streaming a felony. People had big time problems with that. Kyle Kalinske retweeted this tweet by Alan McLeod. I don't know how to pronounce that. There's $33 million for the overthrow of the Venezuelan government. So, it was a disgrace, right? Because, hey, the guys, we need to keep all the money flowing for imperialism. But let's send people $600, right? Let's short the American people. Something else from Walker Bragman. The new COVID relief bill contains $500 million for Israel. $500 million for Israel. For construction, procurement, modification of missiles. Oh, here we go. Legislative package also contains $2 billion for Air Force missile procurement and related expenses. Construction, procurement, modification of missiles, rockets, and related equipment, et cetera, et cetera. So, yes, lots of money for the MIC. Not so much for you and me. Fiorella from Convo Couch tweets out, the entire progressive, quote-unquote, squad, except Rashida Tlaib and Tulsi Gabbard, voted for this disgusting abomination of a bill. So they were all like, sure, yeah, that's fine. It's fine. We can complain about it, but we're going to vote for it. And Tulsi Gabbard, speaking on why she did not vote for this bill.
On the House floor on this massive spending bill. I voted against it, and I wanted to tell you why. First of all, this bill was over 5,500 pages long. We received the text of this bill at approximately 2:30 this afternoon, and we're told we'd have to go and vote on it just a few hours later. There is no way that anybody in Congress had the opportunity or the time to go through and read this bill to know exactly what was in it. I've been here long enough to see how provisions are snuck into these bills literally in the dark of night, without any announcement, without telling anyone what is in it, and then rushed through in the manner that we have just seen tonight. This is the height of irresponsibility, and it is absolutely no way for the people's representatives to be able to represent the interests of the American people. The second thing is the central part of this bill was supposed to be about providing direct COVID relief to the American people who are struggling and who need help the most. This bill dished out hundreds of billions of dollars going towards special interests, going towards the military-industrial complex, going towards foreign countries, meanwhile saying, here's what's left for you. You get $600. I'll tell you, in Hawaii, that in most cases won't even cover 25% of your rent. It is an insult and a slap in the face to every single American in this country who is struggling because of this COVID pandemic, who is concerned about not being able to pay the rent, about eviction, about whether you'll have enough to buy groceries or medicine for yourself or your loved ones. This bill is a representation of the screwed up priorities of Washington. They should be fighting for you and making sure that you, the American people, come first. This bill did not do that.
Yeah, guys. And that was also, sorry about the noise. Give me 1 second. All right. Sorry about that. So let's look at this. So somebody just said, Trump could have, argued for this while they were negotiating the bill. He did argue for it. I said that several times. He tried to put this in the bill when they were negotiating the bill, and they blocked him from doing it. Pelosi and McConnell were like, no. You're going to upset the negotiations. So they blocked it. The news story came out about the fact that they blocked it. They passed the bill, and Trump said, this is crap. So it's not, he's not doing it. He's not jumping on the late train. He was trying to do it before. He was trying to get people stimulus checks 2 months ago. He said to Nancy Pelosi, send me a bill with just the stimulus checks, nothing else, and I'll sign it. And she said no. That's what happened. That's exactly what happened. So he's been trying to get people stimulus checks. So I don't know. Anyways, let's look at this is from David Sirota. Let's look at what really happened with the stimulus bill. Biden's austerity zealotry helped cut the stimulus bill in half. The New York Times, this is from the New York Times. The New York Times tells us that the president-elect's move to undercut progressives, push them left, push them left, push them left, undercut progressives gave Democrats confidence to pull back on their demands and surrender to McConnell. Wow. If there's a consistent through line in Joe Biden's long career, it is his commitment to the ideology of austerity. He has obsessively pushed for Social Security cuts for decades, and he is stocking his administration with deficit hawks. And that's true. He's been trying to push for Social Security for as long as he's been in office. Cuts to Social Security, not Social Security, cuts to Social Security. Including today's announcement that notorious Social Security cutter Bruce Reed will be White House Deputy Chief of Staff. Oh, push him left, push him left, push him left. Biden has even threatened to veto Medicare for all legislation on the grounds that it costs too much. So if they actually pass Medicare for all in the House, he would, or they pass it in the House and Senate, he would veto it. He said that. Now, in the whittling down of the stimulus legislation, we see the first concrete example of how Biden's ideology can change policy in the here and now and in deeply destructive ways. As pain and suffering is crescendoing across the country, Biden refrained from aggressively pushing the bipartisan initiative for $1,200 survival checks. That was Josh Hawley and Bernie Sanders. Indeed, at a time when there was a legitimate chance to flip some Republicans, including Donald Trump, because he was actually insisting on $2,000 against McConnell and pushed for a more robust stimulus, he demurred. So guess what, guys? Donald Trump is more lefty than Joe Biden on this particular deal. I'm not talking about everything else. But on war, he's more left than Joe Biden. Joe Biden is more right-wing on war than Donald Trump. Donald Trump is more left on this particular issue than Joe Biden. Or he's more populist, if you will. However, the New York Times reminds us today that Biden was not an idle bystander in the negotiations. So he was part of it. On the contrary, the paper of record tells us that the president-elect played a decisive role in making sure the legislation was cut in half. Can you believe this shit? Here is the key excerpt. This is from the New York Times. With Republican and Democratic leaders in the House and Senate far apart on how much they are willing to accept in the new pandemic spending, Mr. Biden on December 2nd threw his support behind the $900 billion plan being pushed by the centrist group. The total was less than half of the $2 trillion that Speaker Nancy Pelosi and Senator Chuck Schumer, Democrat of New York, had been insisting on. Mr. Biden's move was not without risks. If it failed to affect the discussions, the president-elect risked looking powerless to move Congress before he had even taken the oath of office. Well, he looks that way now. He pretty much blew it already. Because now Donald Trump said, I want $2,000 checks, and Pelosi's like, okay, let's do it. They're circumventing Joe Biden now. This is a wild story. Members of both parties said his intervention was constructive and gave Democrats confidence to pull back on their demands. Read that again just so it sinks in. Biden endorsing an initiative to slash the stimulus bill in half gave Democrats confidence to pull back on their demands for a much more robust rescue package at a time when America faces rising food insecurity and poverty. His enthusiastic lauding of this final bill underscores the role he played. Notably, Biden's austerity ideology was not aimed at the $671 billion military spending package that was tacked into the COVID rescue bill. No, he didn't want to cut that. No. Is there any difference between Joe Biden and Donald Trump? Except for that Joe Biden is more right-wing than Trump? Is there any difference? Which also included billions for Trump's Space Force and new weapon systems. Instead, austerity was targeted at the part of the omnibus legislation that was supposed to help people whose lives have been destroyed by the pandemic. Yeah. I mean, people were trying to tell you this through the entire election cycle, that Biden is a austerity hawk. He's a war hawk. He wants to cut Social Security and Medicaid. He doesn't want to give people Medicare for all. People have been trying to say this the entire time. That this is the person you're going to get, and that's exactly who we got. And lastly, I'm going to just show you some footage from Nico House. This is a food drive line in Little Havana, Miami. It's Christmas time and people can't even afford food. Congress told these people, here's $600 for your troubles, as they go back to their luxury apartments and mansions after making $174,000 off our tax dollars. That's what they get paid if you're in the house. That's your take-home cut. But I don't know if you can see this. Let's see if we can see.
They want to get y'all $600.
You can see that food line.
Here trying to give y'all $600. I know what this is. This is a line for the food drive. It extends all the way back down High Ocean. People are in the damn line arguing. See everybody got their trunks up. This is for food. And they want to get y'all $600.
Anyways, I think that about wraps it all up for today. Oh, by the way, Tulsi also, I think I said this yesterday, also introduced a bill to repeal the Patriot Act. Did you guys hear about that? A bill to repeal the Patriot Act. That's pretty awesome. Will it go anywhere? I doubt it. I doubt it. Does anybody ever hear anything about Citizens United anymore? Does anybody have any bills in the House to repeal Citizens United? Are we still working on that? Yes, Kevin Shanholzer. Nancy is hearing the rustling. I'm telling you right now. They're feeling some heat. If they're acting like they don't hear the force the vote thing, they're acting like that. They're like, what? Is something happening? Because none of the mainstream media is covering it at all. And they're not saying anything about it publicly, but they are hearing it. They are hearing it. And they are acting they're acting like they heard it. And they're like, oh, this is our chance to act like we didn't just screw the American people out of this on the stimulus bill. This is our chance. So they're gonna get their minds right, and they're gonna meet in an emergency session and hopefully get people at least $2,000 checks. What's up, Muzza? How you doing? Everybody say hey to Muzza. Thank you for hanging out, Muzza. It's got some links for you guys. Realize says voting doesn't matter. Yeah, voting doesn't, if it doesn't have much of an effect, but if you really raise your voice, start screaming loudly enough, and you really start threatening to pressure politicians, to pressure other politicians, oh, they start listening. They start listening. Yeah, Rich Diana repealing Citizens United with the present court mix, no chance. But, it's interesting because that issue just kind of went away, right? Remember that was like a big issue. People were talking about it. This was like 12, when Obama first took office. Oh, Citizens United is really bad. 12 years later, everybody's like, yeah, Citizens United is really bad, but we have no plans on stopping it or getting rid of it. Does anybody hear anything about that? Trump's staff that cut out the 2,000. I'm hearing conflicting stories about whether it was White House aides or I heard it was also Nancy Pelosi and McConnell that were saying they didn't want it. Either way, it was the wrong thing to do. Whether it was Trump's staff or White House staff or Nancy Pelosi or Mitch McConnell, either way, it was the wrong thing to do. Right. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for your eyes, your ears, and your conscience. I will be back tomorrow. Tomorrow? Will I be back tomorrow? Yes, I will. I'll be back tomorrow at the regular time of 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Join me in about an hour, 1 p.m. Pacific Time, on Natural Progressive channel, and we're going to have a little discussion with Derek Jensen. Till next time, peace, guys.